Dear all viewers, you were listening the Alpa's King love story. In that story, you will enjoy lot of thrilled, love, and more interesting ending. Before starting story, please subscribe my channel, because your one like and subscribe means a lot to me. And after it, please share your thoughts on comments. And if you like the story, so share it with your circle as well. Now, let's start the story. Chapter 1. The scent of pine and frost still clings to my skin, no matter how many times I scrub my hands. It's a permanent reminder, I don't belong here. I stand in the corner of the grand hall, my blonde hair pulled back so tightly my scalp aches, watching the pack celebrate another successful hunt. The room pulses with raw, untamed energy. Wolves in human form drink and laugh, their voices a thunderous chorus of dominance and belonging that I, as a human, will never truly understand. The stone floor is icy beneath my worn shoes as I move between the long wooden tables, refilling goblets, clearing plates, trying to make myself invisible. That is the only trick to survival here. Be useful, be silent, disappear. I learned that lesson 3 years ago when I first arrived at the palace. Orphaned and desperate, I was taken in by the mercy of the previous Alpha King, a mercy that died with him 6 months later. The current Alpha King is nothing like his father. Kalen Blackwood sits at the head table now, his presence so commanding that even from across the massive hall, I feel the weight of it pressing against my chest. Dark hair falls across his forehead, and his eyes, the color of a gathering winter storm, survey his pack with an expression carved from stone. He rarely smiles, he rarely speaks unless necessary. There are whispers that grief turned him to iron when his parents were killed in an ambush, whispers that something shattered inside him that night. I understand brokenness. I carry my own, tucked away in the hollow space where my family used to be. More wine. The voice barks to my left. I turn to see Beta Ridian, his handsome features twist into that familiar smirk that makes my stomach clench with cold unease. He is second in command, charismatic where the Alpha King is cold, charming where Kalen is distant. The pack loves him. I have learned to fear him in the quiet, desperate way that prey fears a predator who enjoys playing with its food. I pour the dark red wine carefully, keeping my eyes downcast, but I feel his gaze on me like fingers trailing across my skin. "You have the most unusual hair," his voice just loud enough to draw glances from the wolves nearby. "Like moonlight, wasted on a human, really." Heat creeps up my neck. Several wolves turn to look, their eyes glinting with that particular amusement predators have when they sense weakness. I finish pouring and step back, ready to melt into the shadows, but Ridian's hand shoots out and catches my wrist. His grip is like iron. "I wasn't finished talking to you, little mouse." The nickname stings, as it always does. My heart hammers against my ribs, a frantic bird trapped in a cage, but I force myself to meet his eyes, not long enough to challenge, just enough to acknowledge. "Apologies, Beta. How may I serve you?" His grip tightens, just a fraction. "You know, the Alpha King keeps you tucked away like a secret, always cleaning his chambers, always at his beck and call. It makes one wonder, what special services do you really provide for him?" The implication hangs in the air, thick and poisonous. My breath catches. Shame burns through me even though I've done nothing wrong. I clean Kalen's rooms because I was assigned to them, nothing more. I barely even see him. He is always training, always in council meetings, always carrying the weight of a kingdom on shoulders that seem strong enough to bear it. "That's enough, Ridian." The voice cuts through the noise like a blade through silk. Every head in the hall turns. Kalen has risen from his seat. His tall frame radiates a sudden, terrifying authority that makes even Ridian release my wrist and take a step back. The Alpha King's expression remains unreadable, but something flickers in those storm-gray eyes as they land on me for just a single moment, something dark and unnameable. "She's just a maid," Rydian says smoothly, though I hear the sharp edge of challenge beneath the casual words. Surely the Alpha King doesn't concern himself with... I concern myself with every member of this household. Kaelin's voice is low, controlled, but it carries the unmistakable weight of a command that vibrates in the very stones beneath our feet. The threat is clear, cold, and absolute. Rydian's jaw tightens, but he bows his head in submission. "Of course, my king." I want to disappear into the floor. Every eye is on me now, speculation, curiosity, and disdain mixing into a potent cocktail. The human girl the Alpha King defended. They will make stories of this, cruel stories that will make my life here even harder. Kaelin's gaze finds mine again, and for a single suspended heartbeat, I see something beneath the ice, a weariness that mirrors my own. Then he looks away, returning to his seat as if nothing has happened. The hall slowly resumes its celebration, but the atmosphere has shifted. I flee to the kitchens, my hands shaking so violently I nearly drop the empty pitcher. The head cook, Greta, gives me a sympathetic look but says nothing. She knows as I do that drawing the Alpha King's attention is dangerous for someone like me. In this world, protection and peril are often two sides of the same sharp coin. The rest of the evening passes in a blur of clattering dishes and murmured orders. I finish my duties, scrub the last pot, and finally escape to my small room in the servants' quarters. It is barely larger than a closet, but it is mine. A narrow bed, a chipped wash basin, a single window that looks out over the dark, silent eastern forest. I sink on the thin mattress and let out a breath I feel like I've been holding for hours. My wrist still tingles where Rydian grabbed me. A soft knock at my door makes me jump. It is far too late for visitors. My pulse quickens as I cross the tiny space and open the door just a crack, expecting Greta or perhaps another maid. Kaelin stands in the narrow hallway. His frame is too large for the cramped space, seeming to fill it entirely. He has removed his formal jacket and stands in just a dark shirt and trousers. He looks more real, more dangerous. The scent of winter pine and cold night air clings to Kaelin. I immediately drop into a curtsy, my heart racing for entirely different reasons now. "Your Majesty, You need to be more careful." His voice is quiet, almost gentle. It surprises me into looking up. His gray eyes are softer than I've ever seen them, touched with something that looks almost like concern. Beta Rydian is testing boundaries, pushing limits. Stay away from him when you can. Do not give him a reason to notice you. "I will try, Your Majesty." My voice comes out smaller than I intended. "Thank you for intervening." He nods once, a short, economical movement. For a moment, he seems about to say something else. His gaze travels over my face as if memorizing it. Then he steps back, the distance between us feeling suddenly vast. "Lock your door tonight." And then he is gone, his footsteps fading down the hallway like a ghost. I close the door and press my back against the rough wood, my breath coming in short, sharp gasps. The Alpha King came to my room. He warned me. He looked at me like I was something more than just a maid, more than just another invisible human. I touch my fingers to my wrist, then to my cheek, as if I could still feel the weight of his gaze. The lock clicks into place with a soft, final sound. My hands are trembling again, but this time it isn't from fear. It is from the terrifying, thrilling realization that something fundamental has shifted tonight. An invisible line has been crossed, and I have absolutely no idea what calamity or wonder will come next. Outside my window, the moon rises, full and bright, painting the world in silver. Somewhere in the deep distance, a lone wolf howls into the boundless darkness. The sound is not a song, it is a warning. Chapter 2. The morning comes too soon, a gray light filtering through my small window. I barely slept, my mind churning with images of Rydian's cruel smirk and Kaelin's unexpected, unsettling gentleness. My duties, however, wait for no one. I drag myself from bed, splashing icy water on my face until the exhaustion retreats to a dull, manageable ache. The palace is already stirring when I make my way through the labyrinth of stone corridors. Servants hurry past with linens and breakfast trays. From the distant courtyard, I can hear the clash of training weapons, the shouts of instruction, the rhythmic thunder of combat, the morning music of a warrior pack. My first task is always the same: clean the Alpha King's private chambers before he returns from training. It is a job I was given shortly after his coronation, and I've never understood why I was chosen. Other maids have more seniority, more skill, but Greta pulled me aside one morning and told me the Alpha King had requested me specifically. I'd been terrified, expecting some sinister reason. The truth was far more mundane. Kaelin was rarely in his rooms, and when he was, he barely acknowledged my presence. I would clean in silence, he would read reports or stare out at the mountains. We existed in a strange parallel peace. Until last night. The heavy oak door to his chambers is ajar when I arrive, which is unusual. I hesitate, my hand hovering near the cold wood, listening. Voices drift from inside. Kaelin's low, steady rumble, and another I recognize immediately. Rydian. Being ridiculous, Kael. She's just a human maid. Your father took in strays, but you don't need to continue his misguided charity. Rydian's tone is casual, but there's a blade beneath the silk. My father understood that a pack's strength isn't measured in dominance alone. Every member of this household serves a purpose, including her. Her purpose is to scrub floors and look pretty doing it. Rydian laughs, and the sound makes something cold settle in the pit of my stomach. Though I'll admit there's something appealing about that fragility. It makes you wonder how easily it would break, doesn't it? Silence stretches, thick and dangerous. When Kaelin speaks again, his voice has dropped to something that makes the hairs on my arms stand on end. If you touch her, Rydian, I will remove you as Beta. Do you understand me? The threat hangs in the air between them, sharp and final. You'd risk our bond, our friendship, over a human? Rydian's voice has lost its casual edge. What is she to you, Kael, really? That is not your concern. Your concern is following my orders. Stay away from her. I don't wait to hear more. I back away from the door as quietly as a shadow, my heart pounding so violently I think they might hear it. I make it to the end of the corridor before I let myself breathe, pressing my hand to my chest as if I could still feel the frantic beating beneath my ribs. The Alpha King threatened his own Beta. For me. I don't know what to do with that information. I don't know how to process the terrifying weight of it. So I do what I always do when the world becomes too complex, too frightening. I find work to lose myself in. The library needs dusting. It's a task usually left to others, but I slip inside the vast, silent room with its floor-to-ceiling shelves and breathe in the familiar, comforting scent of old paper and leather. This has been my sanctuary for years, the place I come when I need to remember there are other worlds beyond these stone walls, other stories than my own. I'm balanced on a ladder reaching for a high shelf when I hear footsteps behind me. I thought I might find you here. I nearly fall, catching myself on the shelf as I turn. Kaelin stands in the doorway. He has cleaned up from training. His dark hair is still damp, and a fresh, simple shirt clings to the broad lines of his shoulders. In the soft morning light filtering through the tall windows, he looks younger, less like the untouchable Alpha King, and more like a man. Your Majesty. I start to climb down, but he raises a hand. Stay. Finish what you're doing. He pauses, and something like uncertainty crosses his features. It is a vulnerability I have never seen him before. "I'm fine," I say automatically. The lie is practiced, perfected from years of making myself small and untroublesome. "Thank you for your concern." He moves further into the library, his gaze traveling over the books, as if seeking an answer written in the spines. "You come here often. Greta mentioned it once." Surprise flickers through me. He asked about me. "I like the quiet," I say softly, "and the stories." "What kind of stories?" He turns to look up at me, genuine curiosity in his stormy eyes. I hesitate, my fingers trailing over the spine of a book about distant lands I will never see. Ones where people overcome impossible odds, where the weak find a strength they didn't know they had, where... I stop, realizing I'm revealing too much. "Where the endings are happy," he finishes, his voice barely a whisper. Our eyes meet, and in that moment I see past the crown, past the authority, to the profound grief he carries like a second skin. He understands impossible odds. He understands loss. Maybe, in some strange and painful way, he understands me too. "Yes," I breathe, "where endings are happy." He nods slowly, and the silence that falls between us isn't uncomfortable. It is the silence of two people who recognize a shared wound too deep for words. Then the moment shatters. "Alpha Kalen," Beta Ridian's voice echoes from the hallway, sharp and demanding. Kalen's expression hardens instantly, the vulnerability vanishing behind a wall of ice. "Finish your work," he says, his tone formal once more. "And remember what I said. Be careful." He is gone before I can respond, leaving me alone among the books and the dust motes dancing in the sudden emptiness. I climb down from the ladder on shaking legs. I press my palm against my chest where my heart continues its wild, unsteady rhythm. Something is happening. Something I don't understand and cannot control, and as I look toward the doorway where Kalen disappeared, I feel the first dangerous stirrings of something that terrifies me more than fear itself. Hope. Chapter 3. 3 days pass in a strange, suspended tension. I move through the palace like a ghost, hyper-aware of every glance, every whispered conversation that falls silent when I approach. The other servants have noticed the Alpha King's protection. Their reactions range from pity to barely concealed resentment. I am an anomaly, a human who has somehow drawn the attention of the most powerful wolf in the territory, and no one knows what to make of it, least of all me. I keep my head down, I perform my duties with meticulous, silent care, and I avoid Beta Ridian as if my life depends on it, because perhaps it does. I've seen the way he watches me now. His hazel eyes track my movements across rooms with a chilling intensity. He doesn't speak to me, he doesn't have to. The promise in his gaze is clear enough. Whatever game he is playing, I am a central piece, and I want no part of it. Kalen, meanwhile, has become even more distant. I still clean his chambers each morning, but he is never there. He leaves before dawn and returns long after I've finished, as if he is deliberately avoiding the space we once shared in quiet parallel. I tell myself it is for the best. The less contact we have, the safer I will be. But late at night, alone, I cannot stop thinking about the way he looked at me in the library, the softness in his eyes, the question about happy endings. It is dangerous to think of the Alpha King as anything other than my sovereign. It is reckless to remember that beneath the crown and the crushing duty, there is a man who grieves, a man who wonders about stories, just like I do. On the 4th day, everything changes. I'm in the kitchens, helping Greta shell peas for the evening meal, when a young wolf messenger arrives, his face pale with urgency. The Alpha King requests all household staff in the main courtyard immediately, he announces, his voice cracking. There's been an incident. My stomach plummets. Greta and I exchange one worried glance before following the stream of servants pouring out into the cold morning air. The courtyard is already crowded when we arrived. Pack members gather in a loose, murmuring circle around something I cannot see. The air is charged, electric, with the kind of tension that comes before a storm breaks. I push through the crowd until I can see what holds everyone's horrified attention. Beta Ridian stands in the center of the courtyard, his expensive clothes dirty and torn, a livid bruise blooming along his jaw. Across from him stands Kaelin, his posture rigid with barely controlled fury, and between them, kneeling on the cold stones, is Ilara, one of the newer maids. She is weeping, her dress torn at the shoulder, her dark hair a wild tangle around her tear-streaked face. She's lying. Beta Ridian's voice is steady, but I hear the strain beneath it. I would never force myself on anyone, especially not a servant. She came to my rooms willingly, and now she regrets it. That is all this is. That's not true. Ilara's voice breaks on a sob. I brought him fresh linens like I was told to, and he grabbed me. He said things about how humans should feel honored when wolves show them interest. Enough. Kaelin's single word cuts through her testimony like a whip crack. He looks between them, his expression carved from granite, but I can see the muscle ticking in his jaw. Ilara, go inside, report to Greta. You are dismissed from beta duties immediately. Relief floods the girl's face as she scrambles to her feet and flees toward the palace. The crowd murmurs, uneasy. I feel Greta's hand on my arm, her grip tight with warning. Kaelin turns to Ridian, and the temperature in the courtyard seems to drop 10 degrees. This is the second incident this week, the second time you have demonstrated that you believe your position gives you rights over those weaker than you. Kael, you're overreacting, Ridian began, but Kaelin moves faster than I can track. In a blur of motion, his hand is wrapped around Ridian's throat. Don't, he whispers, the word carrying the full, crushing weight of an alpha's command. The pack watches in stunned silence. A public challenge between an alpha and his beta is rare, catastrophic. The bond between them is supposed to be unshakable, built on trust and loyalty. To see it fracturing before our eyes feels like watching the very ground crack open beneath our feet. Ridian's face goes red, but he doesn't struggle. He can't. An alpha's dominance is absolute. You're willing to destroy everything we've built, over servants, over humans? He chokes out. I am willing to destroy anything that betrays what my father taught me, that power without honor is just tyranny. He releases Ridian suddenly. The beta stumbles back, gasping for air. You are stripped of your beta position effective immediately. The crowd erupts in shocked murmurs. Exile, it is the worst punishment a wolf can face. To be cut off from pack bonds, from family, from everything that gives their life meaning. Ridian's face goes from red to a sickly white. Genuine fear flickers in his eyes for the first time. You can't. Kaelin, please, I'm sorry. I'll apologize to the girl. You had your chance to be better. You chose this path. Kaelin turns to address the gathered pack, his voice rising to ring off the stone walls. Let this be clear to everyone. I do not care about your rank, your bloodline, or your position. If you abuse your power, if you harm those under our protection, you will answer to me. There are no exceptions. His gray eyes sweep across the crowd. They land on me for just a heartbeat. Something passes between us in that glance, a recognition, an understanding. Then he looks away, and the moment is gone. Get him out of my sight. 2 guards move forward to escort Rydian away. The former beta goes without resistance, his shoulders slumped in defeat. But as he passes near where I stand, his eyes find mine. The hatred in that look is so pure, so venomous, it makes my blood run cold. This was your fault, his expression screams. You did this. You drew his eye. You made him weak. He says nothing, but I hear the promise in his gaze as clearly as if he'd shouted it. This isn't over. Then he is gone, dragged away toward exile. The crowd begins to disperse, voices rising in animated, anxious discussion. Greta pulls me back toward the kitchens, her face grave. That girl, I whisper. Ilara, is she really all right? She will be. She's strong. Greta glances at me, her weathered features tight with a concern that goes deeper than today's events. But you, child, you need to be more careful than ever before. The Alpha King just made an enemy of his oldest friend to protect a servant. The pack won't forget that, and neither will Rydian. I didn't ask for any of this, I say, my voice small and strained. Fear and confusion tangle in my chest, a thorny vine. I just want to do my work and be left alone. I know, Greta says softly, but sometimes life has other plans for us. Sometimes we are called to be more than we ever wanted to be. Her words haunt me through the rest of the day. I go through my duties mechanically, my mind spinning with images of Rydian's hatred and Kalen's fierce, devastating protection. By the time evening falls, I am exhausted, emotionally wrung out in a way that makes my very bones ache. I am finishing the last of the dinner dishes when the young messenger appears in the kitchen doorway again, this time looking slightly less panicked. The Alpha King requests your presence in his study. My heart stutters. Greta gives me an encouraging, wary nod, so I dry my hands, smooth down my simple gray dress, and follow the boy through the winding, torch-lit corridors of the palace. The study is on the 3rd floor, a room I've cleaned but never occupied with him. The messenger knocks once, receives a muffled response, and gestures for me to enter before disappearing. I step inside. It is a space that feels more intimate than I expected. Books line the walls, a fire crackles in the hearth, casting dancing shadows, and Kalen stands by the window, looking out at the darkening forest. He has removed his jacket, his white shirt rolled up to his elbows. There's a tiredness in his posture that makes him seem almost vulnerable. You wanted to see me, Your Majesty? My voice sounds too loud in the quiet room. He turns from the window, and in the firelight his features look softer, less severe. I wanted to explain about what happened today. You don't owe me an explanation. I'm the Alpha King, which is exactly why I do. He moves toward me, each step deliberate, until he stands close enough that I can see the flecks of silver in his gray eyes. Rydian was right about one thing. I did destroy our bond, to protect servants, to protect you. My breath catches. Me? You, Ilara, every person in this household who cannot defend themselves against wolves like him. His jaw tightens. My father taught me that true strength lies in protecting the vulnerable, not in exploiting them. Rydian forgot that lesson, or perhaps he never truly learned it. I don't know what to say. The Alpha King of the most powerful pack in the region has just upended his entire command structure, exiled his second because of a principle, because of people like me? Why? The question escapes before I can stop it. Something flickers across his face. Pain, memory, a grief so profound it steals the air from the room. He is silent for so long I think he won't answer. Then he speaks, his voice rough, raw with an emotion I've never heard him before. Because I know what it is like to be powerless, to watch someone you love suffer and be unable to stop it. I wait, barely breathing. When the rogues attacked, when they killed my parents, I was there. I fought, but there were too many. I had to watch my mother fall. I had to see the light leave my father's eyes, and I couldn't save them. I was supposed to be strong enough, fast enough, better, but I failed. The agony in his words cuts straight through me. Without thinking, I reach out and touch his arm, a gentle pressure through the fabric of his shirt. "You survived," whisper I. "You became the alpha they would want you to be." His eyes find mine, and the intensity in them steals my breath. Did I? Or did I just become hard, closed off? My father would have handled today differently. He would have found a way to save Rydian while still protecting you and Alara. I just ended it. You did what was right, what was necessary. My hand is still on his arm, and I can feel the terrible tension coiled in his muscles. Your father would be proud of the man you've become. You don't know that, but his voice has softened, some of the harsh self-condemnation fading. I know that you came to my room to warn me of danger. I know that you defend those who can't defend themselves. I know that you carry your grief like a weight, but you refuse to make you cruel. The words tumble out before I can censor them. That's not a hard man, Your Majesty. That's a good one. The silence that falls between us is different now, charged with something immense and fragile. Kalen's free hand comes up slowly, hesitantly, and his fingers brush against my cheek with a gentleness that makes my eyes sting. "You see too much," he murmurs. "You're dangerous. You know that? I'm human. I'm the least dangerous thing in this palace." No. His thumb traces along my jawline, and I shiver despite the warmth from the fire. No, you are the most dangerous thing here, because you make me want things I can't have. You make me feel things I thought died with my parents. My heart is beating so hard I'm sure he can hear it. What things? He leans closer, his breath warm against my temple. For a moment, the world narrows to this space between us. Every nerve in my body comes alive with an anticipation I have never let myself acknowledge. But then he steps back. His hand falls away, leaving my skin suddenly cold. "You should go," he says, his voice strained. "It's late. You have duties tomorrow."
The dismissal stings, but I understand it. Whatever this is, this impossible, dangerous connection cannot be allowed to grow. He is the Alpha King. I am a human maid. The chasm between us is as wide as the sky. I curtsy, keeping my eyes down so he won't see the disappointment I know is written plainly on my face. "Good night, Your Majesty." Wait. His voice stops me at the door. When I turn back, he is watching me with an expression I cannot quite read. "My name is Kalen. When we're alone, I would like you to use it." The intimacy of that request, the vulnerability in it, makes my throat tighten. "Good night, Kalen." His name feels like a secret on my tongue, precious, forbidden. The small, almost hesitant smile that touches his lips is the most beautiful thing I have ever seen. I flee before I can do something foolish, before I can cross back to him, before I can reach for him the way some deep, unguarded part of me desperately wants to. My feet carry me through the corridors on muscle memory alone, my mind reeling. Only when I reach my room and lock the door do I let myself feel the full weight of it, the fear, the longing, the impossible hope blooming in my chest like a flower that will surely be crushed before it can ever truly open. I press my fingers to my cheek where he touched me and whisper his name into the darkness. I know, with a certainty that shakes me to my core, that I will never be the same again. Chapter 4. The palace feels different in the days following Rydian's exile, quieter, or perhaps just more watchful. The pack moves through their routines with a new weariness, as if testing the boundaries of their young Alpha King's resolve. I hear whispers in the corridors, debates about whether Kalen was right to choose servants over his beta, whether such softness will make him appear weak to neighboring packs. But I also see something else. Ilara walking through the halls with her head held a little higher. Other servants meeting my eyes instead of looking through me. A subtle, seismic shift in the way power flows through these ancient stone walls. Kalen sent a message, and it is being received. I try to maintain normalcy, to lose myself in work as I always have, but everything changed that night in his study. The memory of his touch haunts me, the gentleness of his fingers against my cheek, the way his voice roughened when he said my presence was dangerous. I find myself listening for his footsteps, looking up whenever a door opens, hoping and fearing in equal measure. But Kalen seems determined to keep his distance. A week passes, then 2. Our interactions are brief, stolen glimpses across crowded rooms. I continue cleaning his chambers each morning, but he is never there. He leaves no trace of himself beyond the books stacked on his desk and the occasional fading scent of pine and winter that clings to the air. I tell myself it is better this way, safer. Whatever spark ignited between us needs to die before it can truly catch flame. Then comes the night of the summit moon. It is an old tradition, predating even the current pack structures. A gathering of all the regional alphas to discuss territories, settle disputes, and reinforce alliances. Packs will come from hundreds of miles away. Alphas and their entourages will fill the palace until it groans under the weight of so much concentrated dominance. The servants work frantically to prepare. Guest chambers are aired and furnished. The great hall is decorated with banners representing each pack. The kitchens stock enough food to feed an army. I am assigned to help with the guest rooms in the eastern wing, a task that keeps me occupied from dawn until well past dark. On the day of the summit, I barely have time to breathe. Wolves begin arriving in the afternoon, powerful alphas with their warriors and advisors, their voices filling the palace with competing energies that make my human senses ache. I keep to the background, moving between rooms with fresh linens and water pitchers, trying to remain invisible. That becomes impossible when I turn a corner and nearly collide with a man that radiates a danger that makes every instinct scream at me to run. He's tall, broader even than Kalen, with golden hair pulled back from sharp, aristocratic features. His eyes are a piercing, unsettling amber. They fix on me with an intensity that freezes me in place. The scent of him is wrong, not unpleasant, but foreign, other, setting off primal alarm bells in my mind. "Well," he says, his voice smooth as silk over a steel blade, "what do we have here?" I drop into a curtsy, eyes lowered as I reply, "Apologies, my lord, I didn't see you." "No, I imagine you didn't." He circles me slowly, and I feel his gaze travel over me like a physical touch. "You're human. I can smell it on you, that fragile, breakable scent. What's your name, little human?" "I'm just a maid, my lord, if you'll excuse me." His hand shoots out and catches my chin, tilting my face up to meet his eyes. His grip is not painful, but it is unyielding. "Remove your hand from her now." Kalen's voice cuts through the hallway. I've never heard that tone from him before. Pure alpha command layered with something darker, something possessive that makes the very air vibrate. The golden-haired alpha releases me immediately, but he doesn't seem afraid. If anything, he looks amused as he turns towards Kalen. "Blackwood, I was just admiring your staff. You keep unusual servants." "Alpha Silas," Kalen says, moving to stand between us, his body a protective, claiming barrier. I trust your rooms are satisfactory. Quite, though I'm beginning to understand why certain rumors have reached my territory. They say the young Alpha King has developed interesting attachments. The temperature plummets. Kalen's hands clench at his sides. I can see the barely restrained violence in the set of his shoulders. You should return to your rooms, Alpha Silas. The feast begins in an hour. It isn't a suggestion. Silas smiles, a predator's smile that shows too many teeth. He inclines his head in a mockery of respect. Of course, I look forward to discussing territorial boundaries later, among other things. He walks away with deliberate slowness. I don't breathe properly until he disappears around the corner. Only then does Kalen turn to me. His gray eyes blaze with fury, yes, but also with a flicker of fear. Did he hurt you?
His hands hover near my face as if he wants to touch me but doesn't trust himself to. No, I'm fine. My voice shakes. Who is he? Alpha of the Northern Territories. Powerful, cunning, absolutely ruthless. Kalen's jaw is a hard line. He has been looking for ways to undermine my authority since I took the throne. If he thinks he has found a weakness, he doesn't finish. He doesn't need to. I understand perfectly. I am a weakness, a human the Alpha King defended publicly, protected, and, according to rumor, cares for. In the deadly political landscape of pack dynamics, that makes me a weapon to be used against him. I should request reassignment, I say quietly. Work in the kitchens during the summit, somewhere away from the guests. No. The word is immediate, almost violent, then softer. No. I won't have you hiding because of men like Silas, but you need to be careful. Stay in groups. Don't go anywhere alone. And if any of the visiting alphas approach you, he pauses, something warring in his expression. Come find me, immediately. Kalen, his name slips out, intimate and dangerous in the empty hallway. This is dangerous for you, for your position. Maybe it would be better if I... Don't. He does touch me then, his hands framing my face with a gentleness that contradicts the fierce intensity in his eyes. Don't suggest that you should disappear to protect me. I'm the Alpha King. Protection is my responsibility, not yours. He leans closer, his forehead almost touching mine. I've spent 6 months being what everyone else needed me to be, cold, distant, untouchable. But when I'm with you, I remember what it feels like to be just myself. I won't give that up, not for politics, not for power, not for anything. The words hang between us, a confession that changes everything. My heart hammers against my ribs, hope and terror mixing until I can't distinguish one from the other. You're the Alpha King, and You're the woman who sees me when everyone else only sees the crown. His forehead does touch mine then. We stand there in the quiet hallway, breathing the same air, balanced on the edge of something momentous. You're the one who made me want to be better, to be worthy of the way you look at me. Tears sting my eyes. How do you look at me? Like I'm not broken. His voice cracks on the words. Like there's still something good beneath all the grief and duty and impossible expectations. I pull back just enough to meet his eyes. What I see there steals my breath. Longing, fear, a desperate, hopeful kind of courage, all tangled together. You're not broken, Kalen, I say, my own voice trembling. You're healing. There's a difference. He makes a sound that's half a laugh, half a sob. And then, he doesn't kiss me, he doesn't cross that line, but he does something that feels just as intimate, just as irrevocable. He takes my hand, he laces his fingers through mine, his grip strong and sure and gentle all at once. He holds my hand as if it's the most precious thing he's ever held, and he looks at our joined hands, then back at my face, with an expression of such wonder, such quiet joy, that it makes my chest ache. That, he whispers, was incredibly stupid. Catastrophically stupid, I agree, but I can't stop the smile that breaks across my face. Anyone could have seen. Silas, the other alphas, servants. I know. This could destroy everything. I know. I squeeze his hand, but I don't care. He brings our joined hands to his lips and presses a kiss to my knuckles, a gesture so tender, so reverent, it feels like a vow. Stay safe tonight. Promise me. I promise. He holds my gaze for one more heartbeat, a look that holds a universe of unspoken words, then releases my hand and walks away. I watch until he disappears. Then I press my fingers to my lips, still feeling the phantom warmth of his kiss on my skin. The world has shifted on its axis, and I know with absolute certainty that nothing will ever be the same again. Chapter 5. The feast is as overwhelming as I feared. The great hall blazes with candlelight. Pack banners hang from the vaulted ceiling like captured flags. Long tables groan under the weight of roasted meats, fresh bread, fruits arranged in elaborate displays. The air is thick with the mingled scents of food, wine, and the distinctive, potent musk of too many powerful wolves in one space. I help serve alongside the other maids, moving between tables with pitchers of wine and platters of food. The visiting alphas are loud, boisterous, their voices competing over the din. Some ignore us completely, others watch with varying degrees of interest, some benign, others decidedly not. Kalen sits at the head table, presiding over the gathering with the same controlled authority I associate with his public self. But now I see the subtle tells, the way his fingers drum against his goblet when he's impatient, the slight tightening around his eyes when an alpha says something provocative, the way his gaze finds me across the crowded hall and holds for just a moment, softening before hardening back into stone. We're playing a dangerous game, and we both know it. I'm refilling goblets at a table near the back when I feel eyes on me. Alpha Silas sits with several of his northern wolves, all watching me with expressions of cold calculation. When our eyes meet, Silas smiles that predatory smile and raises his goblet in a mock toast. My hands shake. I splash wine on the table. The wolf I'm serving, a severe-looking female alpha with silver-shot hair, gives me a sharp look but says nothing. I murmur an apology and move on, hyper-aware of Silas's relentless attention. I'm heading back to the kitchens for more wine when a hand catches my elbow, pulling me into a shadowed alcove. My heart leaps to my throat until I see it's Alara, her dark eyes wide with warning. You need to be more careful. Half the alphas in this room are watching you and they're not being subtle. They know something's different about you. I'm just serving wine. You're the human the Alpha King defended publicly, twice. Alara glances around. There are rumors flying through the visiting packs. They think you're his... I'm not, I say quickly, though the denial feels hollow after the hallway, after our joined hands. Well, someone should tell Alpha Silas that, because he's been asking questions about how long you've been here, what your duties are, whether you have any family. Her grip on my arm tightens. Be careful. Men like him don't ask questions out of idle curiosity. A chill runs down my spine. What does he want? I don't know, but nothing good. We separate. I return to my duties with Alara's warning ringing in my ears. The feast continues, growing louder as wine flows. I keep to the edges, try to be invisible, but I feel Silas's attention like a weight between my shoulder blades. When I pass near the head table, Kalen's eyes find mine. He must see something in my expression because his face darkens, his attention shifting to where Silas sits. Some silent, deadly communication passes between them, a challenge issued and received across the roaring hall. The tension ratchets up another notch. Several alphas exchange glances, sensing the undercurrents. I am making my way toward the kitchens when Silas stands suddenly. His chair scrapes loudly against the stone floor, drawing every eye. He raises his goblet. Gradually, the hall falls silent. "A toast," he announces, his voice carrying easily, "to our young Alpha King, who has proven himself surprisingly progressive in his policies, who values even the lowest members of his household, who understands that true strength lies in protecting the weak." There is something mocking in his tone, something sharp beneath the honeyed words. Kalen stands slowly. His expression is carved from ice. "To tradition," he replies, his voice carrying equal weight, "and to those wise enough to honor it." The two alphas stare at each other across the hall. I understand, with sudden terrifying clarity, that this is about more than territory. This is personal. This is about me. "Indeed," Silas says, his smile widening, "to tradition, and to ensuring that certain boundaries are maintained, for the good of all our packs." The threat is clear, even wrapped in diplomatic silk. Kalen's hands clench into fists on the table, but his voice remains level. "I'm certain we can discuss boundaries tomorrow, Alpha Silas. Tonight is for celebration." It is a dismissal, clear and unmistakable. Silas holds Kalen's gaze for another long, tense moment. Then he inclines his head and sits. The hall gradually resumes its noise, but the damage is done. Everyone witnessed the exchange. Everyone felt the crackling tension. And everyone is looking at me, trying to decipher my role in this dangerous game. I flee to the kitchens, my heart racing. Greta's words from weeks ago echo in my mind. Sometimes we're called to be more than we ever wanted to be. I'm just not sure I'm strong enough to answer that call. Chapter 6. The summit stretches into its second day, and the palace feels like a powder keg waiting for a spark. I move through my duties in a haze of anxiety, jumping at shadows, hyper-aware of every visiting alpha who crosses my path. Silas's veiled threat at the feast has shifted something fundamental. What was whispered speculation is now open knowledge. The Alpha King has a weakness, and that weakness is me. I try to stay in the kitchens, buried in work, but Greta keeps sending me on errands that take me through the main corridors, past rooms where alphas gather in tight, heated clusters. I catch fragments of conversation as I pass, discussions about territories, trade, old grievances. But underneath, I hear my own story being dissected, weaponized against Kalen, setting a dangerous precedent. Elevating a human above pack members shows weakness in judgment, makes one wonder about his other decisions. Each comment is a knife. I want to scream that I never asked for this, that I was content to be invisible, that loving Kalen was the last thing I intended. Loving him. The Alpha King. The man who carries grief like armor but still finds gentleness for a human maid. The impossible, foolish, dangerous reality of it makes me want to laugh and cry. "There you are." I spin. Kalen strides toward me, his expression tight with barely controlled tension. He's been in council meetings all morning. Shadows bruise the skin under his eyes. His formal jacket is gone, his shirt sleeves rolled up as if he's been running his hands through his hair. "You shouldn't be here," I say immediately, glancing around. "Someone might see." I don't care. He reaches me in 3 long strides and pulls me into an alcove, his hands cupping my face as if he needs to confirm I'm real. "I've been listening to them tear you apart all morning, use you as evidence of my incompetence, and I can't—" He breaks off, his jaw clenching. "Are you all right?" "I'm fine. They're just words." But my voice shakes, betraying the lie. "They're not just words. They're poison." His thumb strokes my cheekbone, and I lean into the touch despite myself. Silas is rallying support, trying to convince the other alphas I'm unfit to lead, that my judgment is compromised. "Then maybe you should—" I swallow hard, forcing out the words that would destroy me.
Maybe you should distance yourself from me publicly. Make it clear I'm just a servant, nothing more. His hands tighten on my face, not painfully, but firmly. No. Kaelin. No, he repeats, and there is steel in his voice, the alpha surfacing. I won't hide what you mean to me to appease wolves like Silas. I won't pretend you're nothing when you're... He stops. Something raw and vulnerable crosses his features. When you're... everything. The words hang between us. Too big, too true, too dangerous. Tears burn behind my eyes. I'm human. I'll live maybe 60 more years if I'm lucky. You'll live centuries. How can I be everything when I'm so temporary? Because you make the years matter. His forehead presses against mine, and I feel him trembling. I was dead inside before you, just going through the motions, performing a role. But you saw past all of that. You saw me, and suddenly I wanted to live again, not just survive. A sob catches in my throat. This will destroy you, your position, your authority, everything your parents built. My father once told me that a leader who won't sacrifice for those he loves isn't worth following. I didn't understand what he meant until now. His smile is sad, beautiful, devastating. My father once told me that a leader who won't sacrifice for those he loves isn't worth following. I didn't understand what he meant until now. Before I can respond, footsteps echo in the corridor, multiple sets, moving with purpose. Kaelin releases me immediately, stepping back, composing his face into that neutral mask, but his eyes remain on me, storm gray and burning. 3 alphas round the corner, Silas flanked by 2 others. They stop when they see us. Silas's smile is pure calculation. Alpha Kaelin, we've been looking for you. There are matters requiring your attention in the council chamber. I'm aware. Kaelin's voice is level. I'll join you shortly. We can wait. Silas's amber eyes slide to me, though perhaps your maid should return to her duties. I'm sure she has chambers to clean.
The dismissal is deliberate, designed to remind everyone present of exactly what I am. But Kaelin doesn't rise to the bait. Instead, he turns to me with perfect courtesy. Thank you for the report on the guest chambers. Please ensure the staff is prepared for this evening's gathering. It's a fiction, a thin excuse, but it gives me an escape. I curtsy to all of them, eyes down, and flee before Silas can say anything else. I hear Kaelin's voice behind me, cold and commanding. Shall we, gentlemen? The rest of the day passes in a blur. I work mechanically, my mind replaying his words. You're everything. Loving you is the rightest thing I've ever done. Each repetition makes my chest ache with a wild mixture of joy and terror. Evening comes too quickly. The final night of the summit will be marked by a ceremonial gathering in the courtyard, a tradition where each alpha speaks, reaffirms alliances, and addresses disputes. It is political theater, and according to the anxious whispers, Silas plans to use it to make his challenge public. I'm not supposed to attend. I've been assigned to kitchen duty, safely away. Greta made the assignment herself, her face tight with worry. But as the sun sets and I hear the ceremonial drums begin their ancient rhythm, I find myself drawn to a window overlooking the courtyard. It is lit by hundreds of torches, flames casting dancing shadows. Each pack stands in distinct groups, banners held high. Their alphas form a loose circle in the center. Kaelin stands tall among them, his dark hair catching the firelight. Silas stands across from him. The space between them crackles with unspoken conflict. The ceremony begins with traditional words. Each alpha speaks in turn. It should be boring, but the undercurrent of tension makes every word feel weighted. When it's Silas's turn, he steps forward with the confidence of a wolf who's cornered his prey. This year has tested us all, he begins. We've faced threats from rogues, scarcity, and the challenge of maintaining our traditions in a changing world.
Murmurs of agreement ripple. But the greatest threat to our way of life isn't external. It's the erosion of our values from within. It's the acceptance of weakness masquerading as compassion. It's the elevation of the powerless over the strong, the human over the wolf. My blood runs cold. He is building to something, and I know with sick certainty that I'm the weapon he's chosen. Our young Alpha King, he says, turning to face Kaelin directly, has made choices that concern many of us, choices that suggest his priorities have shifted away from pack welfare toward personal interests. Kaelin remains perfectly still. I speak, of course, of his unusual attachment to a human servant. He lets the words hang. An attachment so strong he exiled his own beta to protect her, an attachment that has him distracted. I challenge the judgment of Alpha Kaelin Blackwood. I question whether a leader who would choose a human over his own pack can be trusted with the welfare of these territories. I call for a vote of confidence from the assembled Alphas. The courtyard erupts in chaos. Wolves shout over each other, some in support of Silas, others defending Kaelin. I can't breathe. This is my fault. Through it all, Kaelin remains silent. When he finally speaks, his voice cuts through the din like a blade. You're right. The courtyard falls silent. Even Silas looks surprised. I did exile my beta for threatening a human servant. I did choose her protection over political convenience, and I would do it again. No, I think desperately, don't do this. My father taught me that leadership isn't about maintaining power at any cost. It's about protecting those who cannot protect themselves. It's about honor, compassion. Strength without conscience is just tyranny. Kaelin's gaze sweeps across the Alphas. If that makes me unfit in your eyes, then vote accordingly, but I won't apologize for choosing what's right over what's easy. Pretty words, Silas sneers, but they don't answer the real question. Are you compromised by this human? Has your judgment been clouded by what? Lust? Misguided affection? He pauses, his eyes glinting. Love? The single word drops into the silence like a stone. I stop breathing. Kaelin turns to face Silas fully, his shoulders squared, his expression open in a way I've never seen in public. I love her. A collective gasp ripples through the crowd. And that love hasn't compromised my judgment, it's clarified it. It's reminded me what I'm fighting for, not just territory or power, but the creation of a world where strength protects rather than exploits. You would doom us all for a human who will be dust before you've lived half your life? Silas' voice drips with contempt. I would build a kingdom worthy of her living in it. Even if she's only here for a fraction of my life, she's made that life worth living. And if you can't understand that, if the idea of loving someone different from yourself is so foreign it seems like weakness, then perhaps you're the one whose judgment should be questioned. The courtyard is so silent I can hear the torches crackle. Silas's face flushes with fury, but before he can respond, another Alpha steps forward, an older woman with iron-gray hair and kind eyes. I've led my pack for 70 years, she says, her voice carrying quiet authority. I've seen Alphas rise and fall based on their ability to inspire loyalty. Alpha Kaelin has shown more courage in this moment than most wolves show in a lifetime. He's willing to stand for his principles even when it costs him. That's not weakness. That's the kind of strength that builds lasting legacies. Another Alpha steps forward, then another, each speaking in Kaelin's defense. Not all of them. Some remain silent, exchanging glances with Silas.
but enough to shift the balance. I watch through tear-blurred eyes as Kalen stands tall, unashamed, owning his love for me in front of everyone who matters. He is risking everything for me. The vote, when it comes, is not unanimous. Several alphas side with Silas, but the majority stand with Kalen. When the tally is announced, Silas's face twists with rage. "This isn't over," he says, his voice low and venomous. "And that human of yours, she's a target now. Every wolf who sees her will know she's the reason our traditions are being dismantled." "Then they'll have to go through me to reach her," Kalen replies calmly. "And I promise you, Alpha Silas, that's not a fight anyone will win." The challenge is unmistakable. Silas holds his gaze, then turns and stalks away, his supporters following. The ceremony dissolves. The atmosphere is charged with aftermath. I stumble back from the window, legs shaking. He did it! He actually stood before all those powerful wolves and declared his love for me. I have to see him. I run through the corridors, no longer caring who sees me. The gathering is breaking up, wolves streaming back inside. I push through them, searching. I find him in a side corridor, surrounded by several alphas who spoke in his defense. When his eyes land on me, something shifts. Relief, joy, fear. He excuses himself and crosses to me in several long strides. I meet him halfway. Propriety be damned. His arms come around me, pulling me against his chest. I bury my face in his shirt and let the tears come. "You're insane," I sob. "You brilliant, stupid, impossible man." "I know." His lips press against the top of my head. I meant every word. "I love you too." The words tumble out, muffled and tear-soaked. I love you so much it terrifies me. His arms tighten around me. Then we'll be terrified together. Chapter 7. The weeks following the summit were a storm of whispers and wary glances. Kalen's public declaration sent shockwaves not just through our pack, but the entire region. Some saw it as revolutionary, a beacon of compassion. Others viewed it as a dangerous crack in the foundation of our world. The reality, I quickly learned, was a complex, fragile thing somewhere in between. The morning after the confrontation, Kalen called a full pack assembly. I stood at the back with the other servants, my heart a frantic drum against my ribs. The pack filed in, their expressions a tapestry of confusion, concern, and outright hostility from those who'd been loyal to Ridian. Kalen stood before them, no longer hiding behind the mask of the untouchable alpha. He looked tired, but resolute. "Many of you are confused," he began, his voice carrying to the farthest corner. "Angry, perhaps? You're wondering what it means for our pack, for our future, that your alpha has chosen to love a human." Murmurs rippled through the hall. I kept my eyes down, my hands clasped so tightly my knuckles were white. "I won't lie to you. This changes things, but not in the way you might fear." He paused, letting the heavy silence settle. "My father taught me that a pack's strength comes from its unity, yes, but also from its capacity for growth, for adaptation, for choosing principle over prejudice." An older wolf from the council stood. "With respect, Alpha, principles don't keep us safe when neighboring packs see us as weak. Silas will use this against us." "He already has." Kalen's voice hardened. "Silas sees compassion as weakness because he's never understood that true strength lies in protecting those who cannot protect themselves. Our pack has always been different. My father welcomed refugees when others turned them away. He built alliances through respect, not fear. I intend to continue that legacy." A young mother stood next, her voice trembling but clear. "But what about tradition, Alpha? What about the natural order? Wolves and humans aren't meant to love, Kalen finished, gently. His gaze swept the assembly. My parents were from rival packs. Their union was considered impossible, a violation of ancient feuds, but they chose each other anyway. Their love created the alliance that gave us decades of peace. Who are we to say what is possible and what is not? The silence that followed was thoughtful, not hostile. I watched as wolves exchanged glances, reconsidering. Kalen continued, his voice softer now. I'm not asking you to change overnight. I'm not demanding you accept what you're not ready to accept. But I am asking you to trust that I have our pack's best interests at heart, that my judgment, my leadership, hasn't been compromised. It's been strengthened. He looked directly at me then, across the crowded hall. His expression softened in a way that made my breath catch. She makes me want to be the alpha you deserve, the leader my father raised me to be. And if you'll give us a chance, I believe we can build something unprecedented, a pack that values strength and compassion in equal measure. The assembly ended without a dramatic vote. Wolves filed out in small, talking groups. It wasn't victory, it wasn't defeat, it was a fragile, hesitant beginning. In the days that followed, a new rhythm established itself. Kalen made no effort to hide our bond, but he was careful, respectful. We took meals together when his duties allowed. We walked in the gardens at twilight. We sat in the library, reading in companionable silence as the fire crackled. The pack watched. They assessed, and slowly, gradually, they began to accept. Not everyone, of course. There were cold shoulders and muttered comments. I learned to walk with my head high, to meet their gazes without flinching, to claim my space in a world never meant for me. Ilara became a fierce ally, as did other servants who'd felt the sting of prejudice. Greta, with a shrewd look, appointed me to help manage the household staff, a small promotion that gave the grumblers something tangible to chew on. And Kalen, he was patient in ways I hadn't dreamed possible. He never pressured me, never asked me to be more than I was ready to be, but he never hid his love. He never pretended I was less important than I was. One evening, curled in a chair by the fire in his study while he worked, he broke the comfortable silence. "You're thinking too loudly." I looked up from my book, just wondering when the other shoe will drop, when Silas will make his next move. "He will," Kalen said, setting down his papers and coming to me, pulling me to my feet and into his arms. I leaned into his chest, breathing in the scent of pine and winter that was uniquely his. I never imagined my life could look like this, that I could be happy. He pulled back, one eyebrow raised. Just happy? I amended, deliriously, impossibly, ridiculously happy. He laughed, a rare, genuine sound I treasured. Good, because I have something for you. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. My heart stuttered, but inside wasn't a ring. It was a pendant, an exquisitely crafted silver wolf, its eyes set with polished gray stones the exact color of his. "This was my mother's," he said quietly. "My father had it made for her when they bonded, a symbol of her place in our pack, even though she came from outside." He lifted the chain. "I'm not asking you to bond with me in the wolf way. I know that's not possible for us, but I am asking you to wear this, to let the pack know, to let me know that you're mine, and I am yours, in every way that matters." Tears pricked my eyes. "Yes," I whispered. "Of course, yes." He fastened it around my neck. The silver settled against my collarbone, warm from his touch, its weight a comforting promise. "There's more," he said, his hands resting on my shoulders. "I want you by my side, not as a maid in the shadows, but as my partner, my equal. I know it's unconventional. I know it will cause talk.
I silenced him, not with a kiss, but by reaching up and covering his hand with mine, pressing it against the pendant. I'm human, I reminded him softly. I can't be your Luna in the traditional sense. I can't shift. I can't feel the pack bonds. You're already my Luna in every way that matters, he said, his voice fierce with conviction. You've shown me what it means to lead with compassion. You've reminded me that strength and gentleness aren't opposites. The pack is already beginning to see it. They just need time. Time. It became both our ally and our enemy. Over the following months, opposition softened. Wolves who'd been hostile grew neutral, then accepting. They saw how Kalen's leadership had evolved, decisive yet fair, strong yet merciful. The pack prospered, but Silas's shadow loomed over everything. Reports trickled in from the northern territories of unrest, of Silas consolidating power, making alliances with other dissatisfied alphas. He was building towards something. We all felt the gathering storm. Chapter 8. The attack came on a cold winter morning, 6 months after the summit. I was in the gardens, supervising the planting of early spring bulbs, when the first warning howls tore through the crisp air. They were followed by others, a rising chorus of alarm that turned my blood to ice. Rogues, dozens of them, pouring over the northern border in a coordinated assault. I ran for the palace, my heart in my throat. Warriors streamed past me toward the gates, their faces set in grim determination. I could already hear the distant, terrifying sounds of combat, snarls, the clash of steel, shouts of pain. Kalen found me in the chaos of the main hall. His eyes were wild, a storm of fear and fury. Get inside. Get to the safe room with the others, now. No, I gripped his arm. I can help. The wounded will need care. You'll be a target. His hands framed my face. Silas sent them. I know he did. And if they're here for anyone, it's you. Then we fight together. I met his gaze steadily, the silver pendant cold against my skin. I'm not hiding while you risk everything. That's not who we are. He looked torn, desperate, but the sounds of battle were clawing closer. Snarls and screams echoed off the stone. He kissed my forehead, hard and swift. Stay with Iris in the infirmary. Do not leave her side. Promise me. I promise. Then he shifted. The transformation was both beautiful and terrifying. His body rippled, bones reshaping, fur erupting from skin. In moments, a massive gray wolf stood before me, easily twice the size of any other, his eyes still that familiar, intelligent storm gray. He nudged me toward the palace entrance with his massive head, a clear, urgent command, then turned and launched himself toward the fray with a roar that shook the very stones. I didn't go to the safe room. I ran to the infirmary. Iris, the pack's elderly healer, was already pulling out bandages and herbs. Good, you're here, she said without looking up. I need steady hands. Can you manage? Yes. The wounded began arriving within minutes, wolves with deep slashes, broken bones, vicious bites. The air filled with the metallic scent of blood and the low groans of pain. I worked alongside Iris, my hands moving automatically, cleaning wounds, applying pressure, handing her tools while she worked her healing magic. My own fear was a cold knot in my stomach, but I pushed it down. There was work to do. One young warrior, his side laid open, grabbed my wrist as I bandaged him. His grip was weak but urgent. The Alpha King, he fights for you. We all see it now. He fights for all of us, I corrected gently, tying off the bandage. That's what makes him worthy.
The battle raged for hours. Every time the door opened, I looked up, hope and fear warring in my chest. I caught glimpses of the courtyard through the high windows, a chaos of fur and flashing teeth, with Kalen's massive gray form always at the heart of it, a whirlwind of protective fury. Finally, as the winter sun began to sink, painting the sky in bloody hues, the sounds of combat faded. The rogues were retreating, leaving their dead and dying behind. Our losses were heavy, several warriors gone, many more injured, but we had held. Kalen returned to the infirmary in human form, limping, covered in dirt and dried blood, a deep gash on his thigh. When he saw me standing there, alive and whole, something in him crumpled. He crossed the room in 3 strides and pulled me into his arms, holding me so tightly I could barely breathe. "You were supposed to be safe," he murmured into my hair, his voice raw. "I'm safe, I am." I pulled back to look at him. "Let me see that leg." He let me lead him to a cot. I cleaned and bandaged the wound while Iris saw to others. My hands only shook now that the immediate danger had passed. "Silas orchestrated this," Kalen said quietly, watching me work. "The captured rogues confessed before they died. They promised them territory if they could create enough chaos, if they could get to you." Ice slid down my spine. "He wants me dead?" "He wants you broken." Kalen's jaw was a hard line. "He thinks if he takes you from me, I'll fall apart, that the pack will turn." "Will they?" "No." He caught my hand, bringing it to his lips. "Because you were right. We fight together, and they saw that today. They saw you here helping save their packmates. They saw what it means to have a Luna who leads through service, not just dominance." The final confrontation with Silas came 3 weeks later, at a neutral meeting ground between our territories. He demanded a parley to discuss the rogue situation. We all knew it was a trap. Kalen insisted I stay behind. I refused. "I'm done hiding," I told him, fastening the silver wolf pendant around my neck. "I'm done letting others fight my battles." So I rode out beside him, wearing a simple dress the color of twilight. Our small contingent of warriors was tense, silent. Silas was waiting with his own force. His expression shifted from smug confidence to cold fury when he saw me dismount beside Kalen. "You brought your pet human to a war council?" he sneered. "I brought my Luna," Kalen corrected, his voice calm as frozen steel. "You will show her the respect her position demands." "Position," Silas laughed, a harsh, ugly sound. "She has no position. She's a distraction, a weakness you're too blind to see." "Then let's test that theory." Kalen took a step forward. "You've attacked my territory, threatened my people, tried to kill the woman I love. If you truly believe I'm weak, prove it. Challenge me." The air went electric, a formal alpha challenge, a fight to submission or death, with the winner claiming everything. Silas's smile was predatory. "Gladly. And when I win, I'll make her watch what happens to wolves who forget their place. You won't win."
The words were quiet, but they carried. I had spoken. Every eye turned to me. Silas sneered. "And why is that, little human?" "Because you're fighting for pride and territory," I said, my voice gaining strength. "He's fighting for love, and love makes us stronger than you will ever understand." The fight was brutal. Both alphas shifted, their massive wolf forms circling in the clearing. Silas was larger, a golden monster of muscle and teeth. But Kalen was faster, smarter, driven by a purpose deeper than dominance. They clashed in a fury of snapping jaws and raking claws. I forced myself to watch, my heart a trapped bird in my chest. Silas fought dirty, aiming for vulnerabilities. But Kaelin fought with a clarity, a fierce, protective grace. The final moment came almost too fast to see. Kaelin feinted left, then struck right, his powerful jaws closing around Silas's throat in the traditional hold of dominance. He held it, not biting down, but applying enough pressure to prove his point. Silas went still. He submitted. Kaelin released him and shifted back. Blood dripped from a dozen wounds, but he stood tall. "You're banished," Kaelin said, his voice rough from the shift, "from all recognized wolf territories. If you're found within our borders again, the mercy I showed today will not be repeated." Silas shifted back, a wound on his neck welling blood. His eyes burned with pure hatred. But he was beaten. He gathered the shattered remnants of his pride and his warriors, and they disappeared into the forest like the shadows they were. In the ringing silence that followed, Kaelin turned to me. He was bleeding, trembling with exhaustion, but his eyes were clear, bright with a hard-won victory. I ran to him. He caught me, spinning me around despite his injuries. "It's over," he breathed into my hair. "It's really over." "We won," I whispered back, holding him tight. "Together." Chapter 9. With Silas's exile, a true, deep peace settled over our territory. The pack's acceptance, once hesitant, now solidified into genuine respect. They had seen their alpha defend his principles at the summit, lead them in battle, and defeat a powerful enemy, all with a human woman by his side. The lesson was not lost on them. Kaelin and I were married as the first blossoms of spring appeared in the gardens. The ceremony was a blend of wolf traditions and human customs, creating something entirely new, just like us. The entire pack gathered. I wore a simple gown of ivory and the silver wolf pendant. I spoke my vows first, my voice clear in the quiet. "I may only have a human lifetime to give you, but I promise to make every day of it count, to stand beside you, to challenge you when you need it, to support you always, and to love you with everything I am, for as long as I live." Kaelin took both my hands to his. "And I promise to cherish every moment we are given, to build a world worthy of your kindness and your courage, to prove that love, any love between two beings who choose each other, is the greatest strength of all. You are my heart, my Luna, my future." When we clasped hands to seal the vows, the pack didn't just howl, they cheered, a roaring, joyful sound that echoed to the mountains. Life found its new rhythm. As Luna, my days were no longer filled with scrubbing floors, but with listening, mediating, and organizing. I worked with Greta to improve conditions for the staff, with Iris to ensure the infirmary was always stocked. I became a bridge, someone the more timid pack members, and especially the human servants, felt they could approach. Kaelin governed with a balanced hand. His council, once resistant, now sought his counsel, valuing the unique perspective our partnership brought. We ruled not as one voice, but as two harmonizing notes: strength and compassion, authority and mercy. One afternoon, I found him in his study, staring at a map, a deep frown on his face. "What troubles you?" I asked, coming to stand beside him. "The Silverfang pack to the east," he said, pointing. "Their alpha is old, sick. His sons are vile for succession, and their conflict is spilling across the border. There have been incidents. Our patrols have found signs of trespass, of hunting in our grounds." "You're worried about war." "I'm worried about unnecessary death." He ran his hand through his hair. "The eldest son, Vorgan, is hot-headed. He sees our pack as soft, because of me, because of you. He thinks it's a weakness to exploit." A familiar chill, one I thought had left with Silas, touched my spine. "What will you do?" "I've requested a parley, just the two of us, alphas, on neutral ground, to set boundaries before this escalates." My stomach clenched. "Alone, Kaelin? It's tradition, and it's the best chance to avoid bloodshed." He turned to me, taking my hands. "I will be careful, I give you my word." The day of the parley dawned gray and cold. I stood at the gates with Ilara and Greta, watching Kaelin ride out with only 2 guards as escort. He looked back once, meeting my eyes, and gave me a small, confident nod. I clutched the silver pendant until the metal grew warm. He was supposed to return by nightfall. Night fell. He did not return. Midnight came. The gates remained closed. Panic, cold and sharp, began to claw at my insides. I paced the great hall, my mind conjuring every terrible possibility. Had it been a trap? Had Vorgan attacked him? Was he lying wounded somewhere in the forest? Just before dawn, one of the guards who had accompanied him stumbled through the gates, bleeding from a head wound, supporting by his companion. "Luna," he gasped, collapsing to his knees before me. It was a trap. Vorgan's men were waiting in ambush. The Alpha, he fought like a demon, told us to run, to warn you. They overwhelmed him. They took him. The world tilted. The stone walls seemed to press in. They took him. Where? My voice was a stranger's, cold and flat. To their stronghold, Stoneclaw Keep. Vorgan boasted. He said he'd break the soft Alpha and send his human mate back in pieces to prove it. A terrifying calm descended over me. The panic froze, solidified into a core of icy determination. They had my heart. They thought that made me weak. They were wrong. Chapter 10. The council was in an uproar. Shouts filled the chamber. "We muster the warriors. We attack Stoneclaw at once. It's a fortress. We'd be slaughtered at the gates. We negotiate, offer land, resources. They won't negotiate. They want a war." I stood at the head of the table, in Kaelin's empty chair, and let the chaos swirl around me. My fingers rested on the cool silver of the pendant. When I spoke, my voice cut through the noise, quiet but absolute.
Silence. They fell silent, shocked. They were used to me listening, not commanding. "We will not attack blindly. We will not beg." I looked at each of their faces. Vorgan took the Alpha because he believes it makes us weak. He believes that without him, we will crumble. We will prove him wrong. An elder wolf, Garen, snorted. "With respect, Luna, you are human. What can you do?" "I am human," I agreed, "which means Vorgan will underestimate me. He sees my love for Kaelin as a liability. I will use it as a weapon." I turned to the head of the scouts, a sharp-eyed woman named Lyra. "How many ways are there into Stoneclaw Keep that aren't the main gate?" Lyra blinked. "A few, old drainage tunnels from the mountain springs, guarded but lightly, and the eastern cliff face, sheer but scalable for a small determined party." "Good." I turned to the head healer. "Iris, prepare sleeping draughts, the strongest you can make, in small, breakable vials." I looked to the master of the guards. "Talon, choose 5 of your best, not the biggest, the smartest, the quietest. We leave at dusk." Garen slammed a fist on the table. "This is madness! You would lead a rescue into the heart of enemy territory? You'll get yourself killed and doom us all." I met his furious gaze without flinching. Kaelin's father once told him a leader who won't sacrifice for those he loves isn't worth following. He sacrificed everything for me, for all of you. Now it is my turn to lead, not as a wolf, but as your Luna. If you will not follow me, stay here, but do not stand in my way. The silence this time was different, heavy with doubt, but also with a dawning, reluctant respect. Lyra was the first to nod. "I know the tunnels. I'll guide you." Talon grunted. "I have 5 in mind. They'll be ready." That evening, as the sun bled into the horizon, I stood in the courtyard. I wore dark, practical clothing. The silver pendant was tucked beneath my shirt. Before me stood Lyra, Talon, and 5 young warriors, 3 women, 2 men, all with keen eyes and still movements. The entire pack had gathered to see us off. The air thrummed with fear and hope. Greta pushed forward and pressed a small cloth-wrapped bundle into my hands. "Food for the journey," she muttered, her eyes bright with tears. "You bring him home, child. You bring both of you home." Alara hugged me tightly. "Make them pay," she whispered fiercely. I mounted the small, sturdy horse they'd given me. I looked at the faces of my pack now, in a way it had never been before. "Hold the walls, keep faith, we will return." We rode into the gathering dark. The journey to the borderlands was a blur of cold nights and tense, silent travel. Lyra led us on hidden paths, avoiding patrols. We moved like ghosts. On the third night, we crouched in a dense thicket, looking up at Stoneclock Heap. It was a monstrous thing of black stone carved into the mountainside, torchlight flickering from its high windows like malevolent eyes. "The drainage tunnel empties half a mile downriver," Lyra whispered, pointing to a dark gap in the rock near the waterline. "It's barred with an iron grate, but the rust is bad. We can get through. The tunnel leads up into the lower dungeons." "Guards?" Talon asked. "Two at the grate. More patrol the corridors." I looked at the faces of my small team in the moonlight. Our goal is not to fight. It's to get in, find the Alpha, and get out. Silence and speed. Use Iris's drafts if you must. No killing unless there is no other choice. I met each of their eyes. "We are not here for vengeance. We are here for a rescue." They all nodded. The respect in their gazes was no longer reluctant. We moved under the cover of a cloudy sky. The two guards at the grate never knew what hit them. A soft thwip from a blow dart loaded with Iris's concentrated draft, and they slumped silently. Talon and another warrior made quick work of the rusty grate with oiled tools. The tunnel was pitch black, smelling of damp and decay. We moved in single file, hands on the shoulders of the person ahead. The only sounds were the drip of water and our own muffled breathing. After what felt like an eternity, Lyra halted. A sliver of faint torchlight seeped through a crack above us, an old iron drain cover. She listened, then gave a slow nod. Talon and another warrior eased it open without a sound. We emerged into a dank, empty corridor. The air was cold and smelled of mildew and despair. The dungeons. Lyra pointed left, then right, directing two warriors each way as scouts. They melted into the shadows. Talon, Lyra, and I took the central passage. We found the first dungeon guard rounding a corner. A dart took him in the neck. Talon caught him before he hit the ground and dragged him into an empty cell. My heart was a wild thing, but my mind was eerily clear. Find him, find him, find him. Then I heard it. A low, pained groan from behind a heavy wooden door at the end of the corridor, a door with a new, heavy lock. A guard stood before it. Talon raised his blow dart. I put my hand on his arm and shook my head. I stepped forward into the pool of torchlight. The guard started, leveling his spear. "Halt! Who are you? How did you get down here?" I kept my hands visible, my posture non-threatening. A scared human woman. "Please," I said, letting my voice tremble. I was with the traveling merchants. I got lost. I'm so cold." He lowered his spear slightly, sneering. "A lost little human. You've wandered into the wrong place." He took a step towards me. "Vorgan will have fun with you." As he reached for me, Talon and Lyra struck from the shadows behind him. It was over in seconds. The guard slept. Talon took the keys from his belt and worked on the lock. It clicked open with a sound that echoed like thunder in the silent corridor. I pushed the door open. The cell was small, dark. A figure was chained to the far wall, slumped in the straw. Even in the gloom, I knew him, his scent, the shape of his shoulders. "Kaelin!" He didn't move. A bolt of pure terror shot through me. I rushed forward, falling to my knees beside him. His face was bruised and bloodied. His clothes were torn, but his chest rose and fell in shallow breaths. Alive. "Kaelin," I whispered, touching his face. His eyes fluttered open. They were foggy with pain, but they cleared the moment they focused on me. Shock, then horror, then a ferocious, protective anger blazed in their eyes. "No," he rasped, his voice cracked from disuse. You shouldn't be here. It's a trap. You have to go. I'm not leaving without you. My voice was steady now. I turned to Talon. Get the chains. Talon set to work with his tools. Lyra stood guard at the door. Kaelin tried to push me away. Listen to me. Vorgan wants you. He knew you'd come. This whole thing, it was to draw you out. The pieces clicked together with horrible clarity. Vorgan didn't just want to break Kaelin. He wanted to break us, to capture the human Luna and make a spectacle of her death, shattering our pack's spirit completely. Then we'd disappoint him, I said as Talon finally sprung the last lock. The heavy chains fell away with a clatter. Kaelin staggered as he tried to stand. I ducked under his arm, supporting his weight. He was weak, injured, but the fire in his eyes was returning. The plan? He grunted as we moved into the corridor. Drainage tunnel, horses wading downriver. He nodded, leaning on me but finding his footing. Vorgan's rooms are in the highest tower. He'll have scouts watching the approaches. He'll know the moment we break for the tree line. Then we don't go to the tree line, Lyra said, a grim smile on her face. She pointed upward, toward a narrow, neglected staircase. We go up. Chapter 11. Up? Talon hissed. That leads to the main keep. We'll be surrounded. The oldest part of the fortress, less guarded, there's a postern gate on the western wall, hidden by overgrowth. It opens onto a sheer cliff path. They won't expect us to go that way. Kaelin nodded, sweat beading on his brow from the effort of standing. She's right. Vorgan will expect a retreat. He'll never expect an advance. It was madness, but it was our only chance. We gathered the rest of our team. 2 had been caught in a brief skirmish but were unharmed. Together, we moved like shadows up the crumbling staircase, leaving the dungeons behind. The upper levels were quieter, but not empty. We encountered 2 more guards. Sleeping drags and swift, silent takedowns dealt with them. We hid the bodies in empty rooms. Every second felt like an hour, every creak of the floorboard a death knell. Finally, we reached a narrow door of rotted wood, hidden behind a moth-eaten tapestry. Lyra eased it open. Cold night air rushed in. Beyond was a small, crumbling balcony, and beyond that a treacherous, narrow path carved into the cliff face, disappearing into darkness. The path leads down to a canyon, then joins a deer trail back to the river, Lyra whispered. It's dangerous. One misstep? We have no choice, I said. We filed out onto the ledge. The wind howled, tugging at our clothes. The path was little more than a foot-wide ledge. Below was blackness, a drop of hundreds of feet. Kaelin went first, his strength returning with every breath of free air. I followed, my back pressed to the cold rock, inching along. One of the warriors behind me slipped, sending a shower of pebbles into the abyss. We all froze, hearts pounding. No alarm was raised. Step by terrifying step, we made our way along the cliff. We were halfway across when the shouts began from the keep behind us. They'd found the unconscious guards. Torchlight flared on the battlements above. They're on the wall, Talon growled. Move! We broke into a shuffling run, no longer caring about silence, only speed. Arrows began to zip past us, clattering against the rock. One grazed my arm, a hot line of pain. Keep moving, Kaelin roared, his alpha voice giving us strength. The path began to descend, winding into a narrow canyon that offered some cover. We scrambled down, sliding on loose scree. The sounds of pursuit grew louder, howls, the baying of tracking hounds. We burst out of the canyon onto the deer trail. Our horses were where we'd left them, tethered in a copse of trees.
We didn't bother with stealth now. We mounted and kicked the horses into a frantic gallop, heading for the river and the safety of our border. The hunt was on. Vorgan's warriors, mounted on fresh horses, poured out of the fortress gates. They were faster, gaining on us. Arrows flew around us. One of our warriors cried out and fell from his saddle. Talon wheeled his horse, grabbed the man and hauled him up, but we lost precious speed. We reached the river, the rushing water silver in the moonlight. Our escape route lay across a shallow ford. "Go, across," Kaelin commanded. We plunged into the icy current. The current was strong, tugging at the horse's legs. Behind us, Vorgan's lead riders reached the bank. Their alpha, a hulking brute with a cruel face, raised a bow, aiming not at Kaelin, but at me. "The human dies first," he bellowed. The arrow flew. Time seemed to slow. I saw its arc. There was no time to dodge. Kaelin, with a snarl of pure fury, threw himself from his horse, shoving me out of the saddle. The arrow meant for my heart sank into his shoulder instead. He hit the water with a cry of pain. "Kaelin!" I screamed, scrambling in the current. Our warriors turned, forming a protective circle around us, weapons drawn. Vorgan's men hesitated at the bank, seeing their prey wounded, but defended. Kaelin surfaced, clutching his shoulder, his face pale, but his eyes blazing. "Get her across," he roared at Talon. "No, I'm not leaving you." I fought to reach him. It was then that a new sound filled the night, not the howls of Vorgan's pack, but a different chorus, deeper, closer, from the trees on our side of the river. Our border patrol, and behind them, led by old Garen himself, was the main force of our pack's warriors. They had come, not to attack Stoneclaw, but to guard the border, to wait for their Luna's return. They poured out of the forest like a silver tide, lining the riverbank, teeth bared, weapons gleaming. Garen stood at the front, his aged voice carrying across the water. "You have our Alpha, Vorgan Silverfang, and our Luna. Release them, or cross this river and face the wrath of the entire Blackwood pack." The numerical advantage shifted dramatically. Vorgan snarled, his face a mask of rage. He had expected a desperate fleeing rescue party. He had not expected an army. He looked at Kaelin, bleeding in the water, supported by his warriors. He looked at me, standing defiantly in the river. He looked at our assembled pack, their loyalty unwavering. With a final hate-filled curse, he spun his horse. "This isn't over, Blackwood." His warriors followed him, melting back into the darkness from which they came. Our people rushed into the water, helping us to shore. Hands lifted Kaelin, carried him to dry land. Iris was there immediately, examining the arrow wound. "It's deep, but not fatal," she announced, her hands already working. "He'll live." I sank to my knees beside him, the adrenaline draining away, leaving me shaking. I took his hand. His fingers clutched against mine, strong despite everything. He looked up at me, pain etched in his face, but wonder in his eyes. "You came for me."
"You once told me we fight together," I said, my voice trembling with spent fear and overwhelming relief. "Did you think I would forget?" He brought our joined hands to his lips, kissing my knuckles. My brave, impossible Luna. Then his eyes found Garen, who stood nearby, looking uncharacteristically emotional. "You brought the pack." Garen cleared his throat. "The Luna, she reminded us what we fight for. It seemed only right to be here when she brought you home." Home. The word had never sounded so sweet. We helped Kaelin onto a litter. As we began the journey back to our palace, the first rays of dawn broke over the mountains, painting the sky in gold and rose. The long, terrible night was over. Kaelin's hand never left mine. Chapter 12. The recovery was slow. The arrow wound became infected, and Kalen burned with fever for 3 long days and nights. I rarely left his side, changing compresses, spooning broth between his lips, talking to him when he was delirious, holding his hand when the pain was too much. The pack held its breath. The palace was silent, the usual bustle muted by worry. On the 4th morning, the fever broke. Kalen's eyes opened, clear and aware. He saw me slumped in the chair beside his bed, my head resting on the mattress near his hand. "You look terrible," he croaked, his voice a rough whisper. A laugh that was half a sob burst from me. "You are one to talk." He lifted a weak hand and touched my tangled hair. "I dreamed you were there, in the dark, calling me back." "I was here," I whispered. "I'll always be here." His recovery after that was steady. His wolf constitution, combined with Iris's skill, saw him regain his strength day by day. As he healed, the atmosphere in the palace transformed from anxious vigil to joyous relief, and then to a fierce, proud unity. The story of the rescue had spread through the pack like wildfire, not as a tale of a vulnerable human, but of a Luna who had led warriors into the heart of enemy territory to save her alpha. The last remnants of doubt about my place evaporated, replaced by a deep, unwavering loyalty. Even Garen sought me out one afternoon in the gardens where I was taking a moment of peace. "Luna," he said, standing stiffly, "I owe you an apology and my thanks." "You owe me nothing, Garen. You brought the pack to the border. You helped bring him home." "I doubted you," his old eyes earnest. "I saw your love as the weakness Vorgan saw. I was wrong. It is your greatest strength, and it has become ours." He bowed his head, a gesture of profound respect from the proud old wolf. "The pack is stronger with you. We see that now." His words meant more than any title ever could. When Kalen was finally strong enough to stand before the pack again, he did so with me at his side on the main dais in the great hall. He didn't speak of his captivity or his wounds. He spoke of loyalty, of courage, of a pack that fights for every member. "They thought taking me would break us," he said, his voice strong and clear. "They thought our bond was a chain to be pulled, a weakness to exploit. They did not understand that the chain they tried to pull was in truth a root, the deepest, strongest root of this pack, and when they pulled, they found not weakness, but the unshakable foundation of who we are." The hall erupted in cheers, in howls of affirmation that shook the rafters. Later, in the quiet of our chambers, Kalen drew me to the window overlooking the peaceful, moonlit territory. "You risked everything," he said softly. "So did you. The moment you defended a maid in the hall, the moment you exiled your friend, the moment you declared your love before your peers." I leaned my head against his shoulder. "We keep choosing each other, no matter the cost. That's who we are." He was silent for a long moment. "The cost for you will come," he said, his voice thick with a grief that was for a future loss. I turned to face him, taking both his hands. "Then don't fight it. Cherish it. Fill the time we have with so much life, so much love, that when my time comes, the memory of it will be a light that never goes out. That's the only victory that matters, Kalen. A life well loved." Tears glistened in his storm-gray eyes. He pulled me into an embrace, holding me as if he could imprint the very feel of me into his soul. "A life well loved," he repeated into my hair. "I can do that." And he did. Chapter 14. The years that followed were golden. Peace reigned. The story of the human Luna and the Alpha King spread beyond our borders, becoming a legend, a symbol of a new possibility. Other packs began to send emissaries, not with challenges, but with questions. How did we manage it? How did strength and compassion balance? Kalen and I became reluctant diplomats, hosting visits, sharing our story not as a prescription, but as proof of what could be. We saw other cross-species bonds begin to form in tentative, hopeful ways. The world was changing, slowly, one heart at a time.
My role as Luna evolved. I established a formal school in the palace for the children of warriors and servants alike, human and wolf. I created a council of advisors that included representatives from every part of pack life. Kaelin governed with wisdom, and I worked to ensure no voice went unheard. We grew older together, though the marks of time showed on me far sooner. Silver threads appeared in my blonde hair, lifelines etched themselves around my eyes. Kaelin remained unchanged in body, but his eyes, those storm-gray eyes, softened, warmed by years of happiness. He loved every change in me. He said my silver hair was like moonlight woven into sunlight. He said my laugh lines were a map of our joy, and he loved to trace them with his fingers. Our love deepened, maturing from passionate fire into a steady, enduring warmth, a hearth that warmed our entire pack. One autumn evening, many years after the rescue at Stoneclaw, we sat in our favorite spot by the library fire. I was reading aloud, my voice a little weaker than it once was. Kaelin's head was in my lap, his eyes closed, a contented smile on his face. I finished a chapter and set the book down, my fingers automatically stroking his hair. "Do you ever regret it?" I asked, quietly, the old question surfacing from the depths of contentment. He didn't open his eyes. "Never, not for a single moment. You are the best decision I ever made, Lyra, the foundation of everything good in my life. Even though I'll leave you long before your time," the words were gentle, no longer fearful, but acknowledging a truth we had long since made peace with. "Especially then." He opened his eyes and looked up at me, and the love in his gaze was as fierce and bright as it had been on the first day he'd said the words. "Because you taught me that it's not the length of the journey that matters, it's the quality of every single step. And every step with you has been extraordinary." Tears, sweet and not sad, filled my eyes. "I love you, Kaelin Blackwood, past reason, past wisdom, past any logical explanation." "Good." He sat up and cupped my face, his thumb brushing away a tear. "Because I love you the same way. And when your time comes, I will carry you with me, not as a ghost, but as a living part of me. I will tell our story to our children's children, and to their children after them. I will make sure this world never forgets the human who taught an alpha king that true strength is love." He kissed me then, softly, a promise and a blessing. And I knew he would keep his word. Chapter 14. The winter of my 63rd year was unusually harsh. A deep cold settled in my bones that not even the roaring fires could chase away. Iris, now ancient herself, but sharp as ever, shook her head gently. "It's not an illness, child," she said, her gnarled hand patting mine. "It's just time." I knew. I could feel it, a gentle pulling, like the tide going out. I didn't fight it. I had lived a life I could never have dreamed of. I had loved and been loved beyond measure. I had helped build something beautiful. Kaelin knew too. He didn't speak of it. He simply stayed closer. He read to me when my eyes grew too tired. He wrapped me in furs and carried me to the window to see the first snowfall. He held my hand as we listened to the pack children singing in the hall below. One afternoon, when the light was thin and gold, I asked him to take me to the gardens. He bundled me up and carried me to our favorite bench, overlooking the valley where we had first ridden together after our wedding. The world was quiet, hushed under a blanket of snow. "It's so peaceful," I whispered, my breath a cloud in the cold air. He held me tighter, his cheek resting against my silver hair. "It is." "Do you remember," I said, my voice faint, "the first time you came to my room, you told me to lock my door?" A soft chuckle rumbled in his chest. "I was trying to protect you. I had no idea you would be the one to save me over and over again. We saved each other. I closed my eyes, savoring his warmth, the steady beat of his heart against my side. That's how it's supposed to be. I felt his tears then, warm against my temple. My brave, wonderful Lyra. Don't be sad, my love, I murmured. We won. Look at what we built. Look at our pack, our legacy. It's a happy ending. It's not an ending, he said, his voice thick. It's a continuation. I will love you for all of my forever. And I said, the words a faint sigh, will love you for all of mine. The last thing I felt was his arms around me, holding me as if he could keep me there by sheer force of love. The last thing I saw was the snow beginning to fall again, each flake a tiny, perfect star against the darkening sky. And then there was only peace and light and the echo of a love that had changed the world. Chapter 15. Kaling Blackwood lived for centuries more. He ruled with a grace and wisdom that became the stuff of legend, but those who knew him best said the heart of his rule was forged in the years he shared with his human Luna. He never took another mate. When asked, he would simply touch the silver wolf pendant he wore always around his own neck and say, "My heart is already spoken for all time." He did as he promised. He told their story. He made sure their children and their pack and the generations that followed never forgot Lyra, not as a myth, but as a real woman, a maid who loved books, who had a quiet courage, who believed in happy endings and helped create one. The school she founded flourished. The council she established became a permanent part of pack governance. The compassion she embodied became woven into the very identity of the Blackwood pack. On the 50th anniversary of her passing, an old wolf, Garen's great-grandson, found the Alpha King standing by her grave in the royal garden, a simple stone inscribed with a wolf and a rose. "Do you still miss her, Alpha?" the young wolf asked. Kaling, his face bearing the timeless quality of the immortal, but his eyes holding the weight of long years, smiled. It was a smile of sorrow, but also of profound joy. "I don't miss her," he said softly, "because she is not gone. She is in the walls of this palace that learned compassion. She is in the eyes of every child who learns to read in her school. She is in the laws that protect the weak. She is in the very soul of this pack." He placed a hand over his heart, over the pendant. "And she is right here, as alive in me as she ever was." He looked up at the sky, where the first stars were beginning to appear. Love like ours doesn't end, it transforms. It becomes the air we breathe, the ground we walk on, the legacy we leave behind. The young wolf nodded, understanding dawning in his eyes. This was the true strength of the Blackwood pack, not in tooth and claw, but in a love so strong it could outlast death, shape centuries, and redefine what it meant to be strong. Kaling lived on, a guardian of the world they had built together, and in the quiet moments, in the firelight, he could still feel her hand in his, hear her laughter in the hall, and see her smile in the sunrise. They had proven that the greatest power was not dominance, but devotion, not force, but faith, not just surviving, but loving so deeply that the story never really ends. It was a tale whispered to pups at bedtime, the story of the Maid and the Alpha King. But for Kaling, it was never a story. It was his life, his truth, his forever. And in the end, that was the only happy ending that ever really mattered.